August 13, 2018. Frederick, Colorado. A quiet suburb about 30 miles north of Denver. Neatly trimmed lawns. Two-story houses painted in soft earth tones. Sprinklers ticking in the morning sun. The kind of neighborhood where nothing ever happens. At 8:30 a.m., worried friend calls the police. She hasn't heard from her best friend. That friend is Shanann Watts, pregnant, mother of two, active on social media, and suddenly, silent. By 1:40 p.m., a patrol officer stands at the front door of the Watts home. The husband, Chris Watts, arrives shortly after. He says he doesn't know where his wife is, doesn't know where his daughters are, but something feels wrong. Not in the house, in him. Chapter 1. The image of perfection to the outside world. The Watts family looked ideal. Shanann posted regularly on Facebook, cooking videos, birthday parties, marriage jokes, smiling daughters Bella and Celeste, and one more baby on the way. Her posts radiated confidence. She promoted a wellness business. She talked about positivity. She filmed Chris dancing in the kitchen. He seemed quiet, reserved, shy, but loving, at least on camera, and that's where the first lesson begins. Social media shows highlights, not reality. Chapter 2. The pressure building behind the filtered photos was mounting financial stress. The family had declared bankruptcy before. Credit card debt was growing again. Medical bills, a large mortgage, private school tuition. Shanann was ambitious and driven. Chris was passive and conflict avoidant. Friends would later say, he didn't argue, he just went along. But internal resentment doesn't disappear, it builds. Silently. Chapter 3. The shift in summer 2018. Something changed. Chris began working out intensely, losing weight, buying new clothes, posting fewer photos with his wife. And while Shanann visited North Carolina with the kids for several weeks, Chris started seeing someone else. Her name, Nicole Kessinger, a coworker, educated, independent, ambitious. Their relationship escalated quickly. Dinner dates, camping trips, secret phone calls. Nicole later told investigators she believed he was separated, but phone records would reveal hours of late-night conversations, sometimes lasting more than an hour. Chris wasn't just having an affair, he was building a replacement life. Chapter 4. The last days. Shanann returned home from a business trip in Arizona just after 2:00 a.m. on August 13th. Security footage captured her entering the house, alive. That was the last confirmed sighting. The next morning, Chris left for work around 5:30 a.m. Later that day, Shannon's friend couldn't reach her. Doctor's appointment missed. Phone going to voicemail. Car still in garage. Purse inside. Her friend knew immediately. This isn't like her. Police performed a welfare check. Bodycam footage shows Chris pacing, smiling awkwardly, talking too much, explaining too much. When the officer asks if there were arguments recently, Chris says no. When asked if Shanann would leave without telling anyone, he hesitates. Chapter 5. The neighbor's camera. The turning point came next door. A neighbor had a surveillance camera facing the street. Chris watched the footage with the officer. It showed him backing his truck into the driveway early that morning, loading something. But the camera angle wasn't clear. Chris began breathing heavily, arms crossed tightly, avoiding eye contact. The officer later said, "That's when my instincts told me something isn't right." Chapter 6. The national spotlight. The next day, Chris stood on his porch, news cameras rolling. He gave an interview. "I just want my family back." He swayed slightly, arms folded, no visible tears. The clip went viral. Across America, viewers felt the same chill. The words were right, but the emotion wasn't. Body language experts appeared on talk shows, analyzing micro-expressions, lack of distress, inconsistent statements. Within 48 hours, public opinion had shifted. Chapter 7. The interrogation room. August 15th. A small, beige room. Chris sits across from two detectives. Calm, cooperative. He agrees to a polygraph. The examiner asks simple yes or no questions. Did you physically harm Shanann? Did you cause the disappearance of your daughters? He answers, no. The results come back quickly. He failed. The examiner tells him directly, "You're not passing this test." For the first time, Chris looks shaken. Shoulders drop, eyes down. Silence fills the room. Then comes a strategy shift. The detective suggests a possibility. What if something happened, and it got out of control? Hours later, Chris changes his story. He claims Shanann hurt the girls. He claims he reacted, but investigators don't believe him. The timeline doesn't fit. Evidence doesn't support it. Eventually, he confesses. Chapter 8 Motive Analysis. Why would a father do this? Criminologists later studied the case extensively. They identified several factors: avoidant personality traits, financial pressure, fear of confrontation, desire for a fresh start, emotional detachment, instead of filing for divorce, instead of facing social embarrassment, instead of splitting assets. He chose elimination. It wasn't impulsive rage. It was calculated escape. Chapter 9 The discovery. Authorities searched a remote oil site owned by his employer. There, they discovered evidence confirming his confession. The details shook even seasoned investigators. The community held vigils. Candles lit the Colorado night. Neighbors cried on camera. Parents hugged their children tighter. The story dominated national headlines. Chapter 10 Courtroom Silence. In November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty. He avoided trial, avoided the death penalty. The judge sentenced him to 5 life sentences without parole. During sentencing, Shannon's family spoke directly to him. Their pain filled the courtroom. Chris showed little emotion. He was later transferred to a maximum security prison in Wisconsin. Chapter 11 The Psychology of Normal Monsters. What makes this case so disturbing isn't his brutality, it's normalcy. Chris wasn't a known criminal. No violent record, no public breakdown. He was the quiet neighbor who mowed his lawn. True crime experts say cases like this are the most terrifying because they shatter a belief that evil looks different. Sometimes it doesn't. Chapter 12 Media, Obsession, and Warning Signs. The case inspired documentaries including American Murder, The Family Next Door. The film used real footage, texts, and social media posts. Viewers were disturbed by how normal everything looked. It sparked debates. How well do we know the people closest to us? What warning signs do we miss? How much pressure can a person hide? Final reflection. The last image. The Watts house was eventually sold. New families moved in. Life in Frederick continued. But the story lingers because it forces an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the most dangerous person is the one no one suspects. The smiling father, the helpful coworker, the perfect neighbor. Outro. High retention. CTA. If this case shook you, there's another story even more chilling: an unsolved disappearance where the prime suspect was never charged. Subscribe, because in the world of true crime, the truth is rarely simple, and sometimes it's hiding in plain sight.